All right, we'll need to start right away, but recording setup, live stream setup. Um, I so the recording from last night, it's in a box file. I'll figure out how to get you a link and all that.
Yep, no worries. I don't know that I'll need it really.
I figure you probably don't, but in case you want to do something with it.
Yeah, and
I think at
honestly,
least
usually if you go on to Zoom, like just log on,
Mhm.
just go to my recordings. That's usually how I get everything will be there.
Yeah. I just figure, if at some point for marketing purposes you're gonna
Yeah.
splice up something to say, hey, look, here's me giving a talk to X number of universities or whatever events, stuff like that.
Yeah, we can see. Never hurts to have.
Yeah. And there's Orion, first person in, Grace as well.
Good to see you again, Orion.
Great to see you.
Okay, but you wouldn't say anything.
Hmm?
You wouldn't say Zoom.
Oh,
I don't know, but
so Grace is sitting right there next to me, apparently.
there's anything wrong.
And yeah, I see Orion over there.
Awesome. Well, we'll give everybody a few minutes to jump on.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Bless you.
All right. Is this all we have today?
For now, yeah, Grace, are those doors supposed to open? Because I think someone's trying to.
They should be unlocked already.
Someone was pushing the button rather than just pushing on the door. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
So
Sorry, just checking on the door real quick because kind of short staffed at the moment. But yeah, I don't know. Some guy rather than pushing on the doors, he pushed on the one of those buttons, and he walked away. I was like, wait, what? But yeah, he's in now. All right, let's wait for Gary to get back. About 5 more seconds. All right. So Grace is back. Yeah, I see her sitting down right next to me.
I think the guy that just came in hop on. So
Okay. Sounds good. I guess he's still grabbing his seat. So I guess we can go ahead and get started. He's not gonna miss much. So all right. Welcome back.
Anybody
Mr.
who comes, we
Fithian.
can catch them up after. You need to let me share screen, Scotty.
All right. There we go.
All right. So yesterday we saw a little bit about what is AI, an overview of all of that, and let me just make sure. Yeah. So this is showing the Amelia screen, right? Yeah. Should be. So yesterday we saw like just an overview of what is AI, what are some of the key terms, what are the different ways it's used, what's ChatGPT, what's enterprise level software, what's all of these different things. Peter, I see Peter's jumping on. I'll give a second for that. So today I actually wanted to show you how we build things and then answer questions. And also after we're done with this, I'll give anybody who wants it access to this as long as you give me your email. So this is, again, a lot of what AI is going to do is it's going to change the nature of jobs, which what I mean by that is a lot of jobs will slightly change in terms of the day-to-day work. It's also gonna add a lot of jobs that are that are not just strictly AI or developer or any of those type of roles, but it's going to be a lot of support roles within technology. So what I mean by support roles in technology is a lot of people that I work with will be technical designers. What they do is they're going to create different workflows. So for this example, I'm going to create a workflow that I'm going to call onboard employee. So hypothetically, you have a company that has 10,000 people, and this is, again, the case for a lot of real companies, and that's why I'll use this example. And you're always onboarding new employees. It takes up a lot of your time and it's a pretty straightforward process. So you need certain information. Some of it might be optional, but preferred. That's fine. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to create a real workflow. I'll talk about ways to improve it later on if you need to really optimize it. But we're going to actually go ahead and build this flow and then give anybody who wants it access to actually playing around with this themselves. So I'm going to say that this is going to be a new flow, and I'm going to call this onboard employee. And you can use anything you want in terms of naming convention, as long as I should do it lowercase, onboard employee, as long as there's no spaces. I a lot of times would use camel case because I'm more used to JavaScript. That's my first language that I use to code. You can use underscores. Any of that will work. So here we're going to say this is going to be onboarding an employee. Now, any conversational flow means it'll be kicked off by an intent. And the intent might be something along the lines of, I would like to onboard a new employee. You're going to see this thing think. And this is just like ChatGPT. It's like any other AI. It's thinking about what it's going to be doing, and then it's going to have a plan of action. So, okay, I understand. I'll help you on board. You can customize the response you want to the end user. I would be happy to help you onboard a new employee. And so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And again, this will all be recorded. So if you want to look back at it, you can. And what I notice is I'm going to go ahead and click on this. It'll pull this up. And I see just out of the box, this is what AI does. It'll automatically build anything that's similar, any words that are similar are coming in here, any phrases that seem like they're related to, I would like to onboard a new employee. Now, one of the big things I'll always talk about with AI is it's not perfect. It's not, you're going to get ones that are maybe not great. This is the computer doing it based on a lot of natural language understanding, things like that. But this is always going to need to be checked by a human. This is important for us to not assume these will be perfect. It'll be a very good boilerplate start. I could, again, ultimately, the best would be to like actually have user utterances for your company and your use case and then build that out. But that's all later on. That's all if you need to optimize things. Once again, most important thing about AI is not just meant to necessarily do everything for you and, automate everything and build large projects. It's supposed to give you a nice template. And that's what this is doing right here. So the next thing is you might need throughout this, onboarding a new employee, you might need to actually go ahead and say, I want to have a whole lot of different utterances that will extract information. So I need to know what the employee's name is. So I'm going to say, what is the name of the new employee? So there's a lot of information that needs to be accessed, and we can just ask for it. And every time that somebody makes an utterance, we're going to update this if we need to. You'll also notice that this is a lot of what AI is going to do, is you're going to see a lot of this going forward in the industry. You're going to see these blocks. You're going to see this thing that's pre-built. Under the hood, what that is somebody did some training to say, this is how to recognize a person's name. If it's any of these different names, this is going to be a person's name. Now, this is really well built out. Does that mean it's perfect? Of course not. You can obviously customize that a little bit, but this is something that, again, it's not meant to be perfect because it's unrealistic to have this always work. That's what I always want to get across about AI is it's not supposed to take care of all the use cases. It's supposed to take care of a baseline, high level, common use cases. There are different people who have unique names. If you need to escalate that and have it taken care of by, customer service agent, because it's unrealistic to build that in as a person's name, not a problem. You can do that. So any questions or comments about any of this so far? One example of that is I know somebody who is named you, and it was just like the word. Now, I can't, every time I see the word you within an utterance, assume that that's a name. So again, idea of a specific use case. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the name. It just means that that's not something that we can build in out of the box right away. Maybe down the line, things will improve so that we can have utterances. There are different ways to do that. But again, AI is not really meant to take care of every potential use case. And again, please jump in, stop me, interrupt me, questions, comments at any time. It makes things better for everybody. So I'm going to say, what else is some information? Feel free to chime in with anything you want. What's some other information we might need from an employee we're onboarding? We need their name.
How about their birthday?
Date of birth.
Happy
What
birthday.
is the employee's date of birth? And you can see it's also creating a name. I can update that. I'm going to just call this DOB, date of birth. We already have a data type that's already built in for that. It's called date. So we already have that pre-built. Again, date's going to be very well trained to recognize any date. And this actually, believe it or not, this is built in to recognize like yesterday, a week from yesterday would be recognized as 6 days from now. Things like that. You know, a week less than a month. It'll recognize all of that under the box, because again, that's a lot of what you're seeing in AI, and the trend in general is moving towards more of, okay, what are all these different things that we can do? So I'm going to go ahead and save all of this. So the employee's date of birth. Another thing I might be asking for is, I might be talking to somebody who's like, listen, not everybody has a photo of the employee right away. I'd prefer it, but if they don't have it, no big deal. So I'm going to say, do you have a photo of the employee? And I'm going to say, well, what is this? What type of thing is this? It's not age that I'm asking for. This is really a Boolean. Yes or no? So a Boolean is just, as those familiar with software development or coding, Boolean just means, is it yes or is it no? It's 2 options. And you see that that's coming in. Again, a lot of you, this is what you're going to see in AI, pre-built out of the box, already up and running here. So yes and no. Save all of this. And what I'm going to do is I can even just click. And again, this is something that takes a long time to really master how to do all of this. I don't expect people to do this perfectly at first. This is going to be more of an understanding of what's a real demo. And if you want to play around with this, I'll give you all access to this as well. So I'm going to say this is going to be yes. Okay. So you see that it creates a branch that says this is going to be going to a yes branch. So great. Can you upload the photo? And I'm actually going to change this. You see that this is normally, it's asking questions. That's the most common thing we do when we need to get information. I can also request information. You see that just doing that, what type of information do I need to request? Do I need binary, a document, Excel, an image, audio, video, Office spreadsheet, you know, presentation, Word, HTML, text, any of those? So what is going to be important? And I'm going to say this is going to be an image upload. Go ahead and save that. And then you store it to variable. That's just like with coding. It's, what do I call this to access it? And I might say this is going to be, I'm going to call this employee photo. So what's the way that I access this? What's the name of this? How do I, you know, target that later on? And I'm going to say employee photo is the name of that variable. I can even, instead of just saying, I want to request information, I can present that back to the user with an utterance. Again, I could say, that's a great photo. And then it just says, what's the variable? What's the thing? Where is it stored? And even just clicking on this will give me employee photo. So let's go ahead and test this out. What is the name of the employee? What is the employee's date of birth? You can also see, if I look in the debug, just saying this will have information. There's a code of name of employee. What's the information that I grabbed? The name of the employee. What's the value of that? Eric Fithian. What type of thing is this? This is a person. So this is, again, a lot of what you're going to see in AI. This is going to be a lot of what the jobs are. In the market, it's going to be taking AI solutions and implementing them. There's going to be people who are also trained on building models. I can talk more about that if anybody's really interested in that part of things. There are going to be people whose job it is to pull information from databases. Again, this is a new world. Every company is going to implement things a little bit differently. So I don't want to say that there's one standard. These are the types of roles that people are going to have in the AI future within companies themselves. This is why I say I'm personally a fan of instructors letting people play with AI, learning the best practices, learning what works, learning what doesn't, learning it. That's in the real world what a lot of us are going to do. And these are going to be very, again, well paid and good, important jobs for the companies. So I'm going to say, what is the employee's date of birth? And you see it's normalizing it to 12186. I could have given it in a lot of formats, and I'll allow you to know how old I am. That's fine. Do you have a photo of the employee? Now, again, you think yes and no are the two options. I could say sure. Anything that's positive that would be mapped to yes, that instead of just making it as narrow as possible, we want to give more options. So I always use this photo.
Good question.
Great photo.
I know you're talking about a positive reply, but let's say I'm being kind of a sarcastic human. It's like, well, there's a bear crap in the woods.
Yep. So
Be able to do that.
what's actually built in, and
Hmm.
this is something that you can customize, but we have valid, invalid, and IDK responses. IDK means like, I'm not sure what you mean about if you have a photo or not. It's built in to recognize anything that's needs clarification for the user about what they're supposed to be doing or responding with. Invalid is, all right, can you give a reasonable response before I slap you upside the head? You can also, customize this where instead of just an auto-generated response from the AI, you can even say, seriously, it's a yes or no question. Not that hard. And so I'm going to save this. And now if I play this again, and I'm going to say, Eric, 12186. Who would care? So that's hitting the IDK. I'm not sure. Whatever. So that's hitting the name, actually, it looks like. So yeah, it's updating the name of the employee, whatever might be something that it thinks is built into the name. Now there are ways to say, I want to make sure that it doesn't update that information. It doesn't jump out of that. And that's in AI, what's known as a back jump. It's jumping back and updating previous information. Allow outbound back jumps? No. So outbound back jumps is back jumps from this block to other ones previously. Inbound back jumps are from later on to this one and updating this information. So back jumps are an important thing in AI. I don't expect people to really understand back jumps. That's going to be more complex for on-the-job use cases. And so I'm going to say this is Eric, 12186. And I'm going to say whatever. Seriously, it's a yes or no question, not that hard. That's an invalid response. So we're going to have all of these different things built in. and able to be responded to for positive, negative, unsure, or really, how is it that hard? Any questions about this? Now, again, I said it was fine to say yes or to say no. And if you say no, again, all I have to do is learn to click a block. And I'm going to say, that's a shame, but I can still onboard this employee today. So that's a shame, but I can still onboard this employee today. This is a way to say, okay, I still want to be able to finish this process if needed. And, I would have preferred that, but not a big deal. So some other types of information that we might have as part of this could be something along the lines of, okay, I want to know what type of employee is this? What are the different types of employees something might have in terms of the options that they have for employees? Employee is this. I'm thinking that there might be contract employees, permanent full-time employees. So I'm going to do a new one. Instead of name of employee, this is going to be type of employee type. And instead of a name, this is going to be, let's go ahead and say that this is going to be a custom. So this is something that's not built in. You tell me what the acceptable values are. I might say part-time, full-time. Maybe it's an intern. And you see all of these are buttons that are created. Add a widget so that they can select one of those. Single selection widget is going to auto-generate part-time, full-time, intern. All of this is auto-created. And what I can do is I can say, I split my flow here to yes and no. Let me go ahead and link it back up. And it's all going to be drag and drop. And that's a lot of what you're seeing in AI right now is you want to customize solutions. It's the job of the AI to build that in. It's a job of those who use the AI to learn how to customize that either with drag and drop or other type of similar functionality on their end of things. So here we have this question. Let's go ahead and save this. And the biggest thing to do when you're doing AI, anything in AI, is constantly test it. Realistically, I would probably be testing this more often than I am here. The reason is, in the real world, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to want to know where those errors are. It's like anything else that you're doing in terms of development. Testing is one of the most important things you can learn to do, and testing it at small stages. So what is the name of the employee? I'm going to say Scotty. You were born yesterday. And you see the date of birth is yesterday now. It's coming in here. Nope. See, I want to test the different solutions. That's a shame, but I can still onboard them. This is recognizing it's going to the no, the negative utterance. It's already built in. That's, again, what you're generally going to be seeing in AI right now. What type of employee is this? And you see I have buttons for part-time, full-time, and intern. And you see that this is an intern. So learning to customize solutions, learning to implement what exists and use the built-in what exists to add to a specific use case is going to be really important. Again, the whole idea of this is The reason I say that AI is not meant to replace all of this, it's simply going to come down to mathematical equation. If I can build this in, even if I'm new to this, and it takes me 5 hours to build this in, or 10 hours to build this in, do I onboard enough employees that this is going to save me 10 hours? I'm not even saying it has to work for everyone. It might not work for everybody, but am I going to save 10 hours of my time by doing this? And then that's what I want you to understand the importance of AI is. If I use ChatGPT to start getting up a use case, is that going to save me time? Is the time I spend doing that worth my time? It's not meant to be a perfect solution. It's not meant to be the world's best essay. It's not meant to be the world's best code. It's very good at certain things. Like with Google, the more specific your search criteria, the more limited, the better the results will be. But always cross-check it, use it as a template. Don't think that this is going to always work for every single solution. Any questions about all of that before I continue? All right. So just go on. What type of employee this? This is an intern or full-time? I can split it on that. You see that all of this is customizable. You're going to rarely need to customize it, but entity value is part-time. For companies that are much larger, they're going to have a lot of different developers working on this, a lot of different implementation experts working on this. And so what those implementation experts do is they say, well, we don't do this 10 times a day. Our company's huge. We do this 5,000 times a day because we're a global company. So I'm going to want to have this take care of not 90% of it, 95%. And so I need to customize it. And that's something that can be done. That's something that's built into the AI, is to understand that depending on the size of your particular company, you might have a very different solution and implementation than somebody else. And that, again, at the end of the day, that's really what it's about is, does building this out save me time? Does making it work for 90% instead of 80% of people and take care of 80% or 90% of those, that instead of 10 hours might take me 2 days, 3 days. Is it going to save me that much time in the long run? If you're a larger company, absolutely. If you're a smaller company, maybe not. And so that's what you see with AIs, is they're able to build in ways to either build in the basics, and that's what you would do in a hackathon, is build in something very basic. You're going to be able to build in something much more complex. All of that's going to be available to people who are trying to implement this. But let me see. So this is going to be part-time. Great. We love our part-time employees here. And I'm going to say full-time. We're going to make sure you work really hard. And for our intern, free work. I like that. And you see that depending on what type of employee it is, any of those are fine. We're allowing the user to just click a button. We're making the process as easy as possible for them. Now, if they're a pain in the neck, or they just prefer to have a human handle it, that's something that is already built in. A lot of people just prefer human contact and interactions. No worries. You can just say escalate and it'll automatically escalate. And so if I just said escalate, I would have to do that from a face call, actually. It's going to just automatically escalate and be something that the employee is, gonna have, it's gonna be routed to call center, and then the next person will pick it up, or it'll be a chat within a website, and the person who's the customer service agent will just be looking over the whole conversation, making sure they're trained on it, picking it up. So what is the name of the employee? I'm going to say Eric. Tomorrow. Do you have a photo of the employee? Sure. And you see that this is something that in what, 30 minutes so far, I've been able to build out a flow that'll handle a decent number of situations that we need to for onboarding employees. Now, what would you ultimately need to do with onboarding an employee? What do you think you would need to do at the end of the process? No worries, Peter. So the whole idea too is you might have your own backend database. Where do you save information as a developer? What type of backends do people use here? More Mongo, I understood. Is that more common for backends that people are familiar with?
Yeah, I feel like Mern, Mongoose, stuff like that.
Yeah, I like Mongo. It's just JavaScript. Mongo's one of the more popular. It's the most popular non-SQL database. So again, you're going to set it up. You're going to set the CORS options. You're going to allow this to be something that's targeted, and you can just have it automatically send an API call, just like Postman, just like other ways of it. You're going to be able to interact with your actual backend and save this information. And so we have blocks for things like that. Obviously, we're not going to worry about having an actual implementation of that. So you might also have just a placeholder, but you see that there's just a backend block of need to make my API calls. Well, what are the inputs? What are the things that I'm sending the database? The employee name, the employee photo, the date of birth, the name of the employee. What am I giving them? And so all of that's able to connect to the back end. And I could even just say, I'm going to say the output is going to be a placeholder of, I'm going to say, employee ID number. So let's say we want some employee ID number. Mongo has the weird, like, really long, odd string and combination. So I'm going to say that this is the employee ID number. It's just hard coded. And I'm going to say our part-time and full-time, these two, all get saved to the database. If you're my intern, I don't need to save that information because I'm not paying them anyways. So we don't need to save this information in the database, but we're happy you're here. And again, you can just change the type of block. So we don't need to save this information, but we're happy you're here. And that's what you're going to see with a lot of AI is it's going to make mistakes. It's going to be imperfect. Now, why was that acting the way it was? Why was it saying that that's a backend task. Well, again, you have to understand that what AI is, what it's recognizing, what it's doing. It's saying, if I need to hypothetically say, I want to look through a statement and decide which of these blocks is it. Is it just a statement? Am I asking a question for information? Well, what type of words make it a question? This looks like a question, so it's going to be an ask block. I saw the word database. That tends to mean it's usually a backend block. Is it always going to be perfect? No. Is it realistic that it's going to be perfect? No. That's why all AI work, all assumptions that AIs make, always have to be verified, always have to be looked over, always have to be something that we're having humans check on the accuracy of these things. The ideas around AI is going to just, teach itself, it's going to correct itself. It is, again, at best, I would say questionable theory that I don't think, at the very least, you'll ever see in your lifetime. It's not something that anybody is close to the solution on. Not only does it not exist, there's no reasonably close solution to how to do that. And so that's what it's important to know about these AI things. Just the biggest mistake people make is they take AI and they say, so if I go to ChatGPT, so if I say, you see a lot of these, the larger it is that you're building something out with ChatGPT, the worse it's going to be. And if I'm here and I'm going to say, I need 100 different phrases that might be used to onboard an employee. This is going to give me 100 phrases or about that. ChatGPT is actually pretty terrible at given an input like 100, actually having 100 of them. Might be okay in this case because it's numbering them. Yep, there we go. It is okay in this case because it numbers them. But a lot of times it's actually really terrible about giving you 100. I'll give you like 105 or 97. Things have to be verified with AI. This is, again, maybe a good one, but welcome to company name. It has to be updated. This is saying during the employee onboarding process to onboard an employee. What are our prompts? Is that what I want? No, I really want to know what are the original utterances that let me know how would someone, 100 phrases from users that let me know their goal is to onboard an employee. This is going to give me a very different output. And you're going to see, again, it's creating 100 different phrases, but these are not going to be perfect. This is a tool that will save me time. Rather than me just creating that from scratch, what's going to be much, much faster from my end of things is to have AI create that, to look over the AI creation, to edit it, and then to go ahead and implement whatever that edited version of this is. Any questions or comments about any of that so far? All right, well, again, I have this 5-minute timer I'm gonna give everybody 5 minutes. I'm gonna be around for that. I'm gonna also probably refill my water. But let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to stretch your legs, get some coffee, get some water. But we'll take 5 and then we'll keep going and we'll talk about different ways to build models and how I could do that. Let's put this up here. Any questions about this so far? And that's the time. I don't really need this anymore, so I can just close this tab. So that's what we do. We can do this for anything. This is just onboarding an employee. This could be external. This could be for, what are some ideas that people have for projects they might be working on? The whole idea is that AI can be general. It can be used for a process that somebody needs to, go ahead and, I don't know what's a good. So it could be used for Duke football, since Duke football plays today. It could be used as a way to say, okay, what's the score of the last? Make predictions about that. There are also these scripting blocks that are able to say, I want to customize it and I want to write just some code. So if you see a scripting block, you just see this. And you write your code in here to make it specific to this use case. There are a lot of things that AI can do, and we can also train models. So the way we train models is we need to have these files that are built out that are, again, mapped to the intent of, this is like on board. I could have called it something else. I probably should. I can edit that name. Onboard employee. Because again, that's what AI is. It's not perfect. It's not going to give you great names out of the box every time. It'll be good. It'll be maybe 80 to 90% accurate. If you train it really well, it'll probably be more than 80 or 90% accurate. But it's never going to work for all use cases. The general gold standard is about 95 for, things that companies actually use to help people with the different items they have. It works 95% of the time. That's great. Now, if 95% of the words are accurate and 5% are inaccurate, usually those inaccurate ones stand out more. They are more glaring. So that doesn't mean you're going to get a 95 on an assignment. It just means that that's how often it'll be right. We don't ever expect AI to get to the point that it's right 100% of the time. My company uses either CSV or TSV files, so comma separator, tab separator. That tends to be pretty common. What do you think the most common way to start building things out is for those files? How about this? I would like a tab separated file. Whoops, I always misspell separated for some reason. See, that's why I have Grammarly, which is able to recognize my mistakes. These are the things that we use. I would like a tab separated file with 100 utterances that map to onboard employee. Because that's what I called it here in my, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, so it's onboard employee. If I actually looked at the code, it would be onboard underscore employee, because it's the code. Each utterance will be on a new line with onboard employee, followed by a tab, and then an utterance from a user that would indicate they want to onboard someone. And I'm going to say, instead of 100, of utterances. And I'm going to go ahead and generate that. And here's my TSV file. That's really the way things are used in the real world. This is something that's going to build this out. Again, I actually do have ChatGPT 4. This is ChatGPT 3.5. This is totally free. I'm not paying anything for this because the idea is that's what we always start with. Oh, look, it's in plain text. Let me copy the code. Let me paste it. Then let me go through this and let me edit each one to see if it's a reasonable utterance, to see if it's a good one that really does map, or if I'd rather something else. Continue generating. Keep giving me more. Look at this. I'm going to have like, I don't know, probably several hundred at the end of this. That's the way that AI needs to be used in the real world. And then I can use this as a way to train the actual models. This is going to be able to be used as my actual, implementation for training it on recognizing. And instead of having like it was built in out of the box, maybe 10 of these, now I've got a couple hundred reasonable utterances. Is it going to be perfect? No. If you just use AI without editing it, it'll probably be right 75% of the time. If you edit it, it'll probably be right 85% of the time. If you really spend a lot of time and pull information from actual utterances that you see for your use case, for your end users, it'll probably be right 95% of the time. And to start, 75 is good. Not as good as 85. So editing it is not that much work. I would suggest doing that. But again, that's what I want people to understand the most about artificial intelligence is this idea that it's going to solve, it does all of these things. It automates everything. It takes care of every use case is not realistic. Does that mean that companies don't try and use it as a way to take care of every use case? No, they do. Should they? No, they're not supposed to. They really should be using it to take care of enough of the common ones that then we're able. So if I want to build something out for, saving so every drive result for Duke football today, I want to save that information. I'm going to ask the user what happened on the first drive. How many total drives were there? What happened on the first drive? They scored a touchdown. What happened on the second drive? They scored a field goal. Maybe I give them button, and then I can save all of that information. And 85% of the time, if that works without having to escalate it to, a call center or have it manually entered in a database, that's going to save me a lot of time overall. And it doesn't take that long to build. It doesn't take that long to get up and running. And again, that's really the way that I would suggest is the best practice for building these things out. Any questions about that? So if I deploy this, what I'm going to actually do is, again, I'm going to create a new file, tab separated value with this, with my code. So I'm going to create a new file. Let's see. I've got my code somewhere here. Yeah. So I have VS Code up already. What do people use for coding editors? I always use VS Code. Anybody else have a preference? So I could say touch onboard employees.tsv. Here's my TSV file. All right, awesome. Save it. Ignore that. Save this file. And now I can upload this into and now if I want to upload this, load new, a TSV file. I'm going to say this is, I think, let me see, PWD. So I'm going to just be able to upload that to search, clean up. Onboard employees.tsv. And so this will be able to be uploaded. So that's really what we're talking about. Honestly, when it comes to the next steps in artificial intelligence, when it comes to the next steps in, whatever your particular use case is, the next steps are going to be more of out of the box. It's going to automatically create a file for you if you want it to, without you going to ChatGPT. It'll automate it. It's still going to do that under the hood. It'll just do it itself. It's not going to be something that the next use case of it is meant to be creating robots. You have to understand that everything that seems complex in code, it's usually built from very basic steps that are just put together over time from different users. The training of artificial intelligence is somebody created the models as a way to say, I just need a lot of information. I'm going to process it by saying, okay, what software can help with onboarding documentation? Okay. What metrics should I track to assess onboarding success? That's what it's going to be doing. And it's going to have it so that in this AI's brain, it's going to be scoring things with a vector. Again, all it is saying, okay, is this user's utterance? Does it have how? Does it have do? Does it have I? Does it have ensure? How many of these words map? Okay, 5 out of 10, that's going to give them a score of 5. How many word pairs? Is there how do? Is that one of the phrases that this user has? Is I used what part of the sentence is I used at? Syntactically, how is that used? Does that map? Yes or no? Whatever has the highest score. But ultimately, that's what the reason we do that is, if I asked you as a human or any human to look through 10,000 different utterances and tell me, what is this map most closely to for this particular utterance? What are they trying to do? It's going to take you forever. AI is meant to be a tool to most likely suggest things, to give you an idea of what is most likely going to be the way that this user wants to implement and have this thing work. And then from there, we want humans in the background correcting it, improving it, updating it. The only other types of AI are, again, sentient, so understanding emotions. And that is pretty complex to understand emotions. But what do you think it does under the hood? Under the hood, it's still the same. It looks at different types of utterances. It's been trained on 20,000 phrases of what are positive, nice comments, what are very positive, nice comments, what are What are somewhat negative? What are very negative statements? What does it map best to? What does it score most closely to? Because that's what computers need to be used for and are most useful for, is not understand. It's parsing through large amounts of data and data sets and information very, very quickly. That's why, like I said yesterday, ChatGPT costs the company over $700,000 a day because it looks through billions and billions and billions, and at this point, possibly even trillions of files every single day. But that's what computers are meant to do. Be very fast at parsing a lot of information very quickly. Infinitely faster than humans could do that. We still need humans to be in the background to understand when that's not going to give an accurate response, when that's not going to be doing things the right way. And again, 100% should never be the goal. That's not a realistic end result. So this is what we're looking at in terms of AI and how it's going to be used. But I also want to spend some time today. If anybody wants to talk about their use case and how I could build something like that out, I want you to have the time to do that, and then we can talk about that.
So I want to throw in something.
Yep.
I've heard it described as humans do smart things slowly, computers do stupid things quickly.
Yes,
And not to say, oh, AI is dumb, but where
it is.
yeah, and I think it's kind of where I can write a comedy show theoretically, right? Or I can deal with human emotions, the super complex things. So I guess maybe it's more humans do complex things slowly. Computers do simple things quickly. And that's where I can have a computer run through 1 trillion lines of code, but then I can kind of sit down and think about the implications of that level that computers generally can't quite do yet. Like play chess is another example.
Right, exactly. Well, so chess is an example because a human can't realistically store all the possibilities of a chessboard in its brain.
Mhm.
A computer can.
Right.
And again, computers are very dumb. They're not very smart, but they can be made to seem smart by smart engineers building things in to say, okay, a queen is worth a lot of points. A king is worth the most points. So if I can find a way to capture the king, that's what I want to do. If not, I'm going to look to capture a queen. And then it can, very complex. Okay, this is worth a ton of time. It's going to build in, 10,000 different scenarios of a board that exists and what the best move is. And it's not going to keep track of, okay, well, these are the plays that this person's made. It can do those things over time. It can, analyze but it's very dumb. It's very rudimentary. All that, when it looks smart, the look smart is literally just the computer parsing through tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even at times millions of different data sets it was given and information it was given to get a rudimentary, fairly somewhat accurate, most of the time result of what's this person's playing style? Are they aggressive or are they very cautious and defensive? What is the best move based on what this looks like right here? And then if you want to be super advanced, what's the best move based on what type of player this is and what the board looks like now? But ultimately, the reason that people say that AI is, that if else statements is it is. That's essentially what it comes down to is, okay, I'm looking through these 20,000 things. If it matches this more closely, that's my new best result. It's essentially a variable and it's saying, best answer, and it's this. It's going to say the score is okay, this matched on 18 out of 25 markers. What percentage is that? 18 divided by 25. The math numbers, something that computers do very well. Although, for those of you who know, decimals are not necessarily something that computers do well. For anybody who's dealt with floating point. Has anybody hit that issue before? I had an algorithm once that was off by 0.0000001. And it's just because, believe it or not, computers are not very good at decimals. They're very good at numbers. They're not very good at decimals. They make mistakes. And so I think it was something where, I forget exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of 0.3 minus 0.2 came to 0. Not 1, but 0.09999999. And that threw the answer off. Believe it or not, decimals are not something that computers do that well. Math overall is. But again, that's the point of computers, is to most of the time be right. In most of those cases with it, it'll be right or close enough. And there'll just be times that it has unique edge cases that has to be done by humans and have them say, no, that doesn't make sense. To have humans understand, okay, this is messing up at this point. This is how I need to retrain it or improve the training files so that it catches 90 instead of 80%. And, you know, the only time in AI is going to be perfect is if you had a a game of checkers, it might be able to do perfectly. The reason is it's reasonable that there's not enough moves, that it's impossible to build in all the possibilities for the best move in each situation. That's very possible. The more limited the game, the fewer the possibilities, the more likely it's going to be 100% accurate. Anything in terms of natural language, different people, handling any user's utterance from any geographical background, it's not going to do that. The other thing that's important to know about these tools is they really combine with other. So we really need to combine the different tools. One AI is going to be responsible for this. What if a company says, hey, but I have employees over in Japan, and I'll use this example because my wife's Japanese and I need to learn Japanese anyways. So I'm going to say that so my original statement was, I think, what I would like to onboard, which domain did I do this? This is an Eric domain. I didn't deploy it yet, but I'm going to say one of the ones we did yesterday is I would like to reset my computer password. So this is going to take me through a process, and it's going to say, definitely, what's your favorite color? And then if I say English to Japanese, here we go. So let me restart this conversation. It says, definitely, I can help you reset the password. What's your favorite color? Now, how is it able to understand Japanese? How's it able to do this? Do you think we built in all of the work for translation services? Why would we do that? Other people did that. There are APIs that exist. The reason I use Google is because I know that out of the box, it uses Google's translation service. You can customize that. You can choose your own. You can have a custom. But again, this is not going to be something where, and I'm going to flip it just to show you that this is the same. It's going to be the same. Would you like to reset the password? For the most part, it's maybe not perfect, but it'll give a good understanding. It'll store the information. That's still in English, even though this is all in Japanese. And so it'll take you through a process in whatever language you want, not because, just because of the fact that, it's easier to use the built-in tools. Let people who are experts at language and translation and spent God knows how much time and money doing that, do that. We'll take care of something else. We'll let, different APIs that are specialized to different areas handle those responsibilities. And that's really what software development in general is, I've worked at companies where we all solve the same exact problems that everybody else was solving, all individually without coordinating. That is a terrible way to do things. The entire point of software development is I want to collaborate. I want to take solution A for problem A. I want to take solution B from problem B. I don't want to rebuild everything. I want to do what I want to specialize in, and I want to take what already exists and add to it in that way.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like you're saying yesterday with open source and collaborative projects. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And then we say a lot in sports as well, play to your strengths. If I'm good at this, I'll do this. If you're good at that, you do that.
Yeah, exactly. And, I even know like the next step in the company is essentially ChatGPT is very good at some things. So instead of having customers connect it themselves, let's do that for them. That's not really, and it does work in phenomenal ways. It does build in amazing functionality, but it's not something where computers are anything more than what they're supposed to be, which is very fast at processing a lot of and parsing a lot of information, with all of us handling our own unique area and specialty. But I'm happy to spend some time building out use cases. Sorry, yeah, Orion.
Oh, sorry, I just had a question about like the general mechanism, because in the past, I mean, I don't know anything about it, but I hear people talk about like the black box or how there's some sort of like unknown mechanism. Is that actually a thing? Or, like, do we fully understand how the AI works?
I mean, for us, and this is what ChatGPT does too. It really is. It's not some black box. It's really somebody created a vector of, you just said this. Let me parse through 50,000 different utterances that might be scored on, do the words match? Is it in the same order? And then from that, I'm going to come up with the best response to you. It really is all based on training data and scoring things in that type of way. Very advanced AIs score it by essentially saying, okay, I'm going to take, not just the words, but the order, the meaning, the syntax. I can parse whether it's an object, subject. That's what we do. Very basic ones will just say, I'm only going to score it on if the words match. So hello world matches world hello. They're exactly the same. They have the same words. And that's what basic ones do. And then they just say, what's the highest score? And based on that high score, what's the output that I'm going to respond to this with? Or map it to. That really is under the hood how it's done. And I think the other thing is like, what's the optimization? Well, it's going to take an utterance and it's going to evaluate what type of area it goes to. Okay, this is, related to healthcare. So let me only look through the 100,000 healthcare utterances I have rather than all utterances for every different type of one, because otherwise that would look through 20 million. That's simply big O notation and saying what's the best way to make sure that I don't have to look through as much information. That's just optimization that's done on the, but again, it still looks through a ton of data because every single time you say something, it's looking to update any previous information. That's continuous arbitration where it's able to always update and adjust information. It's no more than parsing each statement against all of these different, entities or against all of these different things that are available. It's, simply looking through that training data, seeing if it maps to any of those words, and if it does, updating things appropriately. So that's the way that it really works for our implementation.
Awesome, thank you.
And that's what most AIs do. I know ChatGPT does that similarly. They just said, okay, this is the thing that the person wants to do. This is my version of that. And then I don't know if ChatGPT does this, but we also have the thing where you can use this as a voice to text. You can call. We didn't build out voice to text ourselves. That's something that exists. So, hello, I would like to onboard a new employee. So this is something that just is built in by other third parties who specialize in that particular software. If I called in, we integrate with different solutions and are able to have it hit our information, but we need to use different, software that exists. And the only time you build in your own version is if you mathematically say, me spending the time and effort is less expensive than using this third party that exists, that does it very well, or I don't think any third parties do it very well. It needs to be improved, so it's worth the time and effort to build this out myself. But you choose which area you want to specialize and really make your own. And that's what companies and different people are doing with AI right now. Other questions that people have? Well, if either of you want to use the software for any of your solutions, I'll be around to help out too. But let me know, and I'm happy to give you a domain, a password, and let you use this. Otherwise, I'm happy for people just to ask generic questions about anything else. Again, about my company, about about your background, about any AI information in general that might be useful to know.
So I just thought of something. I guess this is maybe an NLP thing. Because when you're typing Japanese in for Amelia, well, I'm not sure if that was Amelia specifically. But I've had one issue. Sometimes I'm driving. Hey Siri, do this.
Hmm. What was that?
As soon as I said that phrase, my laptop started reacting. I was like, oh, that's why I reacted that way. I forgot. So my issue is sometimes I'm driving, right? Hands free.
Right.
And then say, hey, phone name that I shouldn't say again. Credit to Apple, for reacting so well. But when I say that, I might be, in English, find, look up this person's address. I need to drive there. Or, what time is some event? Or, oh, I'm late. What's the score of the Duke game? I might think of something where, I need to call someone that I put into my phone with their Chinese name. And then I might, I've tried before. I would try to ask Siri in Mandarin to do something, and The reply is, I'm sorry, I do not understand. I'm thinking, wait,
It depends how they built that in.
Yeah.
Like for our version, essentially it's like the voice to text is the first thing that's hit. So we get the text then. The next thing that we go to is going to be a third party like Google Translate or whatever translation service you want. And that'll provide us with information or metadata that'll essentially be saying, the language of this user is English. The language of this user is Mandarin. The language of this user is Japanese. And so the response from us would come back in Mandarin. And that's just the order you build it in, because then our response is still going to be our response of, I don't understand what you mean, but it's going to always be filtered through the metadata of what the user's language is. So it's going to take that and it's going to translate it to Mandarin or Japanese. Other solutions don't have that same order. And if you don't have that same order, then you're going to see exactly what you're talking about, where non-responsive is going to just come back as, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by that. The other possibility is if it goes to this third party, I'm sure you all have tried translation services. Well, maybe you all haven't, but if you've tried translation services, they're not very good. So they're not always going to pick up things appropriately for the right language. If it doesn't recognize a language properly, then it's going to be confused, and then it's going to come back with, oh, that just sounds like nonsense. I'm not sure what they mean. And it's going to be in English. So it could be on the end of the third party that's doing the translation service as well. Hopefully, those have gotten much better over time. They used to be terrible. They've gotten much, much better, but
yeah, definitely.
still a lot of work to do to really understand and recognize things properly. And that's usually why.
Yeah, because I've noticed English, Spanish, and vice versa, absolutely phenomenal. But you know, I don't even know Japanese. I just know kanji through Chinese. And when I do Google Translate, sometimes just out of curiosity, what this thing in Japanese say, whatever comes out in English, I'm thinking, all right, I already know that's wrong. You know,
Yeah.
and then using Chinese, then it's like, oh God, that's even worse.
It's
you know,
exactly like, so the reason is, first of all, it's going to be more built out for languages that are more often used. If I have 10,000 users in Japan and I have 1 million users in South America, probably going to build in more South American languages than Japanese. The other issue is, and I know this gets into a lot of why it'll never be perfect, or it'll take a very long time. A lot of languages have so a lot of these language services, there are different dialects. And so we even see that in the US. One locality doesn't necessarily have things the same way. So because there are so many different dialects that change so much by region, it's how many can you realistically build out, and how easy is it to score and understand which dialect they're using in particular. So I think that's a big part of the problem. But yeah, also some of it comes down to what is the choice of this particular AI. What did they decide, you know, to focus on, and what did they decide to implement, and how did they do it? What's the order that things are hidden? But again, a lot of the time when you do something like that, it's which part went wrong. It's not always easy to tell. Was it the speech to text? Was it the text to the translation service? Was it the order that they pay? And so that's why I always say, the more you build these things out slowly and test each part individually, the more you're going to have an understanding of where things are problematic. So, how much is Duke going to win by today? By the way, that's another fun thing, is like, what are the prediction tools for like fantasy football, for NFL? when they predict this team will win 99% of the time, how do they do that? It's again algorithms. They say, what are the most important factors? How do I rate these things? And, a lot of it'll just be based on, okay, I'm looking at these are the statistics for these players. And how often, will this win? Let me simulate it 10,000 times. And in my 10,000 simulations, this team won 6,000. So they're 60%. But it's just taking all the important factors. They'll never be perfect. They'll never know all of the factors that could be things that get into any emotion like momentum are going to be much harder than something that gets into just what is their completion percentage. That's math, that's numbers, that's easier for a computer to handle than understanding to build in. Over time they're trying to build in more about momentum on, okay, when a team starts doing that, how does that build, how often does it continue? Really the best that they can do is they can say, in these 10,000 games that I'm looking at from the past when the score was X to Y, a team scoring and making it closer, how often does that build on itself and improve the chances? But yeah, that's essentially what they're doing. They're just taking a snapshot of historical data, being a computer that does what computers do, parsing it very, very, very quickly with all of those training items, and then coming out with a expectation. But it's all written by algorithms, which is why I love algorithms, and they're probably my favorite part of computer science.
I think I need to head out, but thank you so
Great.
much. This has been super interesting and I learned a ton. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Ryan.
Grace, anything I can help you with?
I think I'm all right. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm all right. Thank you so much for your time. This is very interesting.
Anytime. Well, that means I have to go help the wife with my daughter. So,
Or learn Japanese on Duolingo.
yeah, exactly. One of the two. I have to either learn Japanese or I have to help my daughter. So hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, definitely feel free to reach out at any time if you need anything. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Eric.
All right. Have a great day.